to have been the author of Private Investigation in Uganda and East Africa in 1994. Good morning to you, Mr. Gesser.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure to have you with us this morning.
Thank you so much.
I'll start by asking, please define for us, what is security in terms of the nation?
Of course, if we talk about security, then we could, let me first of all segment it into two. We have what we call domestic security. That is the interior security. Then we have the external security that deals with our borders and our interests and our economies and so many other things. The internal security deals with the safety and the protection of the person who lives in Uganda, and how he feels about his own being, if he's safe, if he's not safe. So that deals with the way a person feels or what a person sees and what happens internally in Uganda. That is domestic security, the security that concerns the people who live in Uganda. Okay,
all right. Now, looking at the police crime report 2021, I get to look at some of crimes here. We do have crimes like a robbery. In 2021, 5,275 cases of robbery were reported compared to the 5,302 cases that were reported in 2020, leading to a decrease in that. You do have a decrease that was reported in domestic violence, burglaries, child-related offenses. But then again, you see crimes that increased from 2020 into 2021. Theft being one of them. By the end of 2021, it was reported 43,583 cases, which is an increment of 22.2% in theft. And theft seems to be the thing that has actually risen up again in terms of insecurity in suburbs, in different towns. Could you tell us about your analytical view of the state of security in this place in Uganda?
Yes, thank you so much. I'll start with the deployment. Now, at this stage, our domestic security is handled by very, very experienced police officers, led by Chola. And we have, of course, who have been beefed up by very, very experienced intelligence officers and from the army. The Kandihos, what's this one? So their deployments, we have about almost 10 generals, I think, 10 generals we are in our domestic security structures. So the deployment is right. What we are seeing is possibly the way things are being done. What I see here seriously is the way things are being done, because you can see that to a certain extent, yes, the deployment is right. The officers, you can see that the president has deployed a team of people to handle domestic security. But when you come to the ground, we do not feel them. They are not felt. The problem basically is about the way things are being done here. I think it is like a situation whereby there's no research. Here we do not think tank. Everybody wakes up and does things the way he possibly thinks and understands. But they believe, domestic security should be an effort, a combination of those deployed and the public, because the public knows what suits them best. And the public has all the information and all the wisdom and knowledge to guide on matters of domestic security. But what has been happening is the people who are taking up the domestic security in this country seem to not to be in touch with the realities of life. For example, this is a situation now, I will start with guns, because if you see the over deployment of guns within the interior security, of course that spells another situation of danger. Then if you look at the way intelligence is being bothered, I'm telling you, just try one day and pick a phone and call any of our commanders and all of these people, the security heads in and maybe send him a message to say, I have good information for you. He may not call you for another 3 days. So meaning that the deployment is right, but the mind and those who are taking up domestic security seem not to have to be in terms with what should be done now.
Okay.
And besides, of course, when you look at a situation now, you may find, because you look at the roadblocks, the impromptu roadblocks that come up, and someone stays in the place for 40 minutes, 30 minutes. That one is very suspicious, especially around the security circles. As much as we have very good soldiers, and as much as we have very good policemen, we still have the bad weavers, the bad beans, which even the president talked about. You know, like recently I hear there was a case, I think it was in Namamve, where a certain, I think it was Andrew Mujuni, who was about to be lynched, a police officer was about to be lynched. Why should the public turn to the extent of lynching a police officer? That's now a feedback that people are losing trust in the police system because of what the police takes the public through. People have lost interest. So, you know, people have all the information. And now in the situation that I hear 2 police officers were moving and had a mission or had a deployment, but they are not in proper uniforms, and but they're armed. Now, you see that there are so many things which are off. This morning, as I was driving here, I saw a border carrying 3 people. 2 had guns, and they were putting on jackets and caps. And you know, it is very common that you will see people moving with guns, and nobody stops to question them. Security companies move their officers using using borders, and there's nobody who can come up and stop this type of nonsense. So it is a situation, I think, of whereby we do not even seem to know what we are doing, because if we can, Uganda has managed to control banditry. Uganda has managed to control terrorism. How do we fail with all the capacities we have? How do we fail to control internal thuggery that a normal Ugandan feels threatened? He cannot sleep well. Even as he's going home, he doesn't know who will kidnap him. People can come up and put up a roadblock and do whatever they want. So, to me, it's a situation of failed intelligence, and who is concerned about, who is supposed to be concerned. You know, the day government removed the special branch, what was the issue of special branch? They were the people investigating the investigator. They were investigating the police. They were investigating the acts of the policeman. Today, I love the policemen because definitely I've worked around them. But at the same time, I'm telling you, we have policemen who are very, very, they're moving very fast, building houses. I'm not saying that policemen should not build houses, but before, under special branch, you had to account for whatever you do. You had to account for what your lifestyle, your lifestyle, what you do. Today, you find a policeman driving a vehicle of, say, like a personal vehicle worth 70 million shillings. I'm not saying that that's bad, but where has he got that money? So have we allowed the police, some bad weavers of the police, to feast on the public? Oh, where do these guns come from? In a situation like now, I hear that the man who was lynched, who nearly got lynched in Mukono, I hear that at one time there is information that he's a police. I hear he's a police officer, but at one time he was got with a dismantled gun. Just information. Now, if it is true, where does a police officer? Why should a police officer dismantle a gun? Where do you camouflage? Where do you hide that gun as you're moving? So, to me, I still believe that I think the criminal and the police, several police people, they seem to be closer to the criminals than to the general public. Actually,
there's been so many reports of people who have gone to report some of these cases, and police officers have bluntly told them, no, we know that person. No, we know those groups. No, don't worry about it. Just make sure next time they are more inclined towards protection and of the crimes and the people committing these crimes than they are of the people who they should protect these crimes against. Now, that's definitely bringing in a loophole into the internal security, as you refer to it. What are the solutions in terms of, one, ensuring that, as you mentioned them, the weavers that are within the security systems, the different security bodies that are supposed to be taking care of law and order within different parts of Uganda, how do you get to deal with them at such a time as this?
You know, the police is a force. And there are 2 words that control a force. That is command and control. The command is okay. You can see police moving in here and there. You can see a lot of things. Logistically, of course, with this type of turmoil, where economically where the country is going through, you may possibly understand a few things. But at the same time, there is no control. You cannot control someone you don't understand. The command structure seems not to understand the policeman who touches the world, and it's dangerous because even politically, because police is the arm of government that touches many people a day on behalf of government. So meaning that whatever policeman does, the way policeman behaves, the way policeman maybe flames up a charge and detains a person and extorts from him is that's how the people will see the government. And in the process, it has a political implication. So what there has to be done now is for government to go back on the drawing board and recreate a force closer or possibly duplicate what we call special branch with the same duties as special branch used to be. This was brought by whites and we thought that maybe it was their design. We have come up with crime intelligence, we have come up with all other names, but it will never match special branch because special branch had details of a day-to-day behavior and acts of every policeman. I'm telling you, the day policemen will be fully monitored, the day the policemen will be fully managed, then there will be control. Today, nobody can talk about controlling the police because they do not understand them. What the junior police officers do, nobody knows. And in the process, as the bosses are comfortable seated in their chairs, Ugandans are bleeding.
Okay. Well, several suspects have been put under custody in some of the crimes that we have heard of. Well, I think one of the peculiar ones was the Mukono Spice Supermarket incident, and some people were arrested as suspects and are under custody, and yet the nightmare continues again and again within the same area codes meanwhile. So this causes the question, why is the chain continuing if suspects are being arrested?
Yeah, basically it is because of the way we're handling our crime management. Criminals should be managed from the day they were arrested. You know, the first thing here we do is we have failed to come up with a program about reselling of used items or old stuff. You know, if the government came up with a program of dealing with who sells old stuff, what are the authorizations, what systems do you go through, do you have clearance from LCs? But anybody you can find anybody with a radio on the road and you buy it. You can find a phone on anywhere and you buy it. The Parliament has not come up even to address this and say, if you sell anything in this country, you should go through this type of system so that we get to know where you got it from, how you got it, and who it belongs to. And secondly, what we are looking at also is the way the government possibly the government deals with the public as far as information is concerned. Do we have anywhere where you can run to? Does the public have, the public has all the information because crime is always blamed and managed within the public systems. But people fear to go to police because you may find that the policeman you're talking to is closer to the criminal. This type of trust, the collapsed trust is one of the biggest reasons why Ugandans are accepting to die locally other than creating situations with the criminals when they talk to the police. Now, immediately police and the general public, the person, the Ugandan, once they walk their ways, then you'll never see security here. And I think another very important issue would be the many guns we are now having. America is getting a very big problem because they allowed guns to flow in public. Here, instead of dealing with intelligence so that we can get to know who waylays people in this location, we create deployments. So meaning that robbers have capacity to infiltrate the police. By the way, robbers are building better intelligence than the police. And because police to keep on talking about poor motivation and so many things, but robbers motivate themselves. So this is a kind of now police that is possibly which has lost morale, dealing with criminals who are very well organized, who have the money, who have the intelligence, who have the capital to invest in robbery. So I wouldn't see that at this stage that possibly we can even do so much other than going back to the drawing board, calling on all the commanders who are heading police internally, and they allow the public to tell them what exactly is happening, because they don't even seem to know. You know, one of the reasons is all of them are deeply protected.
Yeah, because Mr. Gesa, how do you explain to me that a roadblock that is not taking place one day, it's taking place regularly on one particular road, and you're having robbers that are in full uniform, that is supposed to be security uniform, are fully armed for what is supposed to be referred to as police ammunition, or, you know, other security agency ammunitions, and they are actually going ahead conducting this crime and no one is touching them? What does that say? It's
not that nobody touches them. I'm sure police tries to engage them at one time, but the body language, when I look at the body language of a robber who comes and stages a roadblock in full uniform with guns, and even the period he stays at the scene, that's an indicator that he has capacity to dig into intelligence and know that at this stage I can operate without even without being repulsed, detected or repulsed. So the body language is an indicator that the confidence the robbers are showing is a sign that inside they have some insiders.
So how can a Wanjuko who passes in Chengera, stays in Chengera, that's where they built, they cannot shift? If it was rentals, they would shift, but they don't have that option right now. How do they safeguard themselves against these criminals in case they get to interact with them?
Yeah, it is very tricky, more especially if that in a situation that they have come up to start staging roadblocks. Because what do you do with a roadblock? Roadblocks are almost official. Now, in a situation that there are guns and there are uniforms and this is maybe done on a main road, then it becomes a problem. You wouldn't say that maybe you run away because you may be shot by genuine police officers. And I think, to me, really, at such a stage, not until government police comes, pulls up their socks, I think there seems to be no solution, because one would be that if you say roadblock, you don't move there. But now you may not know, because literally the country, sometimes there are many reasons for why police may stage roadblocks. So, but now if a roadblock comes up in such a situation and it is there for what does a person do? What should a person do other than praying to God?
Because that means that the layman is going to continue handcuffed to the insecurity that is in the country, because they don't know how to detect who is right and who is false. And that's where the loophole, one of the loopholes is. But also, let's make comparison to security. 2019, what it was like before COVID-19, and then during COVID-19, the heavy deployment that was placed across the entire country. Of course, the intention was to help people observe the SOPs, but it also in a long way did aid in the crime report that came out for 2020, and how security was very good. Crime rates went down by a milestone, except for things like rape and the like. But then when it comes to, internal security, it was safe, it was better. Why don't we apply that very same kind of system into now to be able to manage the situation?
Yeah, but the circumstances are very different. There were kind of movement restrictions, border restrictions, vehicle restrictions. At least to a certain extent, the movements were very, very minimal. But now the country is open, people are moving, people are looking for money. We are having a situation of escalating prices here and there, so people are getting more desperate. So the situation is very different. As much as there was that lockdown, God was very good as that there was a lot of food, people would eat and stay in their own houses and be there. Today, because the country is open now, these are different circumstances. We are running at a different speed. So definitely, at a certain, and you'll find that other things come up. What we possibly have talked about is the way that several deployments were made. Now, any deployments, what happens is this. We used to have the few police officers, of course, they are not enough. Now we have brought in LDUs, some of whom have been turned into army men, UPDF. But what you have to know is that once soldiers are pushed to overstay with the public, it is very likely that they are going to get corrupted. it's very, very likely that they're going to start indiscipline. Because the way they are trained, they're supposed to be a bit isolated. They're supposed to be in their own camps. They're supposed to handle a few things. Now, we have brought in the army to literally do police work, which is not a problem. The Constitution allows that, the army can come in and be like a supplemental force to the police. But I think we have overdone it to the extent that one, people no longer feel that the army are any threat, and meaning that the issue of discipline with the public will go down. And then secondly, we are looking at a situation that these army people, as they mingle with the public, there is also that situation of changing behaviors and habits. So, which is social, that is a social situation that as you stay with a person, you tend possibly not to get aggressive around him, you tend possibly to pick a few habits here and there, and it is very, very likely that some soldiers, some of these people have been deployed, can be swayed into crime.
Okay, all right. Speaking still of internal security, borders have been seen as some of those catalysts to these active crimes that we're seeing here and there, and multitudes of investigations have also been put in there by government. Interventions have been put in there by security bodies. So should borders take part of the blame to the state of security in Uganda?
But they cannot take the blame because they are not mandated to handle security. One border, but it's like any other person. We cannot blame every Ugandan because they are criminals in this country. Of course, my concern comes in when there is a registration of borders, which is okay, apart from the extortion I'm hearing about, which Mayor Lukwago is fighting. And of course, I'm also surprised that he doesn't want the whatever. There may be the situation of registering them. It is good because they should be understood. They should be managed. You cannot manage. You know, borders are so many, and they're mobile, and sometimes to a certain extent they conceal so many other misdeeds. So getting to know them is not a problem. But possibly where Lukwago could come in is a situation where they are some people extorting and pulling money from them. But you know, border as a force, they are also another big problem, but not as individuals, but as an industry. When you study the history of Nigeria, you find that the current kidnappers who have become a national problem in Nigeria started as Okada drivers. And when they were pushed to the wall, they turned the trade into kidnaps and crime. So they are a force that can literally be turned against society if they are mishandled. Yes.
Okay, all right. So we are also seeing this insecurity rise coming at a time when you're having abject poverty. So meaning that people are not having employment, people are not having much to do. And so because they're looking for a way to survive, they're alternating between either working for it or actually having to rob, having to steal, having to kill just to be able to survive. So what's the relation between the current economic situation and the state of security?
Yeah, you'd be surprised to note that many robbers are not poor people. In fact, it's a robbery. Yes, robbery is a situation of character. It's not that the poor people are robbers. You may find that people who sponsor robberies, of course, they take advantage of the young people and use them here and there. But people, the robbery lords are not poor people. Crime is about indiscipline. Crime is about greed. Crime is about being a social misfit. It's not even about how poor you may become. If you are not a robber, whatever may happen, yes, the situation may have an implication on the crime rate, but it's not absolute, because at the end of the day, we see that crime is character and behavior is one thing, and then poverty is the other. There are many poor people who wake up very early in the morning to look for that 1 shilling, and they're not robbing anybody. You may find that there are people who sponsor robberies, like these guys who sponsor people who snatch phones, these people who snatch people who go to houses and get old items for sale. They are rich, they have made money, but they are still robbers. So it is, yes, as much as there may be a connotation there, but I still believe that crime and indiscipline, crime is a situation of indiscipline, not even attached to poverty.
Wow, that's a very interesting revelation that you're making there, Mr. Igesa. Crime is an issue of discipline, character, and greed, not so of the relations to the economic crisis that the country is grappling with. Now, away from that, I want us to look at the things that should aid security in the country. One of the things that has been heavily invested in by the security forces is things like CCTVs across different routes, across different area codes, home areas and things like that. Have these actually helped a long way in fighting crime?
Of course, even Jesus said that robbers rob in the night. Why do they rob in the night? Of course, these in Uganda are starting even robbers. They have started staging robberies during the day. What happens is people may not want to. People want to do their own things. Crime is not a normal thing. Crime raises one's insulin. It's not a good act. So if people don't want to be called criminals, people don't want to be called thieves, people don't want to be identified with their indisciplines. So people tend to hide away because they don't want to get repercussions like punishment, legal or whatever. Or they don't even want to be lynched. But cameras, this is an eye. It is an eye beyond our own eyes. So to a certain extent, I believe that cameras have kind of helped. Okay, before a criminal used to have all the peace to flee, to run out, do everything. Today they're a bit cautious about what they do. To me, that is very, very important, that cameras have helped us to come up with a situation of cautiousness, especially when it comes to crime and even the way crime is being followed. There are many, many cases today which have been solved because of cameras. Okay. What possibly we have to talk about is how genuine our officers who man cameras, or how alert they may not be.
But also, I feel like there's cases where officers are manipulative of this information on CCTV, just, again, as you said, to protect the criminal.
Yes, like this case I'm talking about.
I guess what I'm trying to ask is, where's the independence of this surveillance information? Okay.
These are systems just being developed. Like I was watching, I picked a lot of interest in this case involving the policeman called Andrew Mujuni and the Dr. Antuya Sam in Mukono. Now, when you look at the clips, one of the people who are lynching the man is a security officer. He was even riding their bike, but I hear they got him and released him because it's their own. I have the clips. The human, I wouldn't even call it human error. It is now human discipline, human and faithfulness. They are holding to the doctor seriously, but the person who is, at least you can see the doctor trying even to protect the victim from being beaten. But the person who is beating, the man who was in a black coat and a blue jean, who even was riding on a police bike, that one he was not touched. Now, there is that kind of, when policemen come to their own, more especially if there is a crime committed by their own, there will always be a problem. Even if it is on camera, they'll try to conceal, they'll try to protect. They will not go deeper to say, but who deployed these people? Why were they not in uniform? Maybe they had gone to rob. Why did the public react? Of course, I don't support the public beating anybody, but I believe that the public is being pressed so hard that to a certain extent, they have now started a reaction.
Okay. All right. Let's cross over the borders, go to Japan. Last week, we did have Japan's longest-serving Prime Minister, Shinzo Abe, being assassinated while he was campaigning in broad daylight, heavily guarded. And so this begs the question, what is the implication of this on the security of Uganda if countries like Japan that have high security investments can be able to suffer such a crime? What more does that speak for us as Uganda?
Of course, I would say that Uganda is being guarded by God, because to me, I don't even see serious systems here. Analytically, I don't see serious systems there. Of course, like I said, the deployment is right. At least the government is trying its level best to facilitate and equip, do these things and the other. But at the same time, when you look at what is being done here, how people recklessly move with guns, how our systems, the cores are being managed, more especially in the police, you just say that we are just being kept by God. Okay. Because, and maybe I would even say we don't seem to have very serious criminals here. possibly would be seeing much more. Yes,
Okay.
because it's better we say it that what we see here, we see a lot of recklessness.
Yeah.
We see a lot of I don't care attitude. We see a lot of compromise with the police. You bypass him twice, tomorrow he calls you a fund and you enter, possibly because he wants a shilling or two. Okay. There is a lot of loose security situations here.
So, Mr. Gesser, the person watching you and I this morning, there's some sort of fear that this kind of crime has built in them. What's your word to them, and how should they safeguard themselves against such crime?
I think people should try to, especially more, if you're like you're moving at night, make sure you are conscious that at any one moment you can be attacked by someone who hits a stone, who hits your vehicle with a stone. So, you know, it is the panic that will make you to overturn. So be very sure that as you move, especially if you're like on highways, like the northern bypass, make sure you have enough fuel, and if possible, try to avoid roads that may be desolate areas like such roads, because very late in the night, in case of a situation that you this is a time when people don't have enough fuel, so meaning that your vehicle can run out of fuel at any one moment. So use roads you can use if you're going to where you get it. Instead of using the highway, which is easiest, you go through the city. Try to avoid areas which are a bit desolate. Try to use busy roads.
For example, I live in Kurambiro, and the road to my house is a desolate road. So with the current urban infrastructure that we have, you can't avoid desolate roads. Of
course, I think the public also should not leave this totally to the police. There should be a situation of know your neighbor, whereby maybe we have to call each other and say, is it the road safe? Because I wouldn't say any other solution. People, the robbers are with us. There is now what we call a chigali. A chigali comprises of about 40 robbers. You can come and kind of cordon off a place and sweep like 20 houses. Now, in places like Seta, where there is only 199, which sometimes has no fuel, you definitely know that you don't expect to be protected. So the public should come up. Like, I'm just wondering, why shouldn't the public move with the sticks in their vehicles? Because how can thugs come in a jam, possibly at around 8, and ransack over 100 vehicles, and there is no man who comes out with a stick to fight. So you go to Kenya, you will not do that. Kenyans are very ready. They have their lungus, they have their sticks. They will definitely try to fend off robbers. I'm telling you, how many people have at least simple weapons to protect themselves in houses? A spear, a panga. These are not, let nobody tell you that you have no right to defend yourself against intrusion and against an attack. But you know, the criminals are having a heyday for one reason, because they know that even when they go in a jam, they can open vehicle to vehicle and there is no resistance. By the time our sleeping police comes up, everything is taken. So I think it is it's high time that the public now bothers to build their own intelligence and their own security.
Well, Fred, I guess I'm simply saying that while you expect law and order to be kept by the police, you might want to find a way of managing it yourself. One of the